I am wearing my comfy clothes for this because it's cold and I want to. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the new movie, The Wild Robot. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That way I don't end up on a random island full of wild creatures. The synopsis is as follows. Shipwrecked on a deserted island, a robot named Roz must learn to adapt to its new surroundings. Building relationships with the native animals, Roz soon develops a parental bond with an orphaned gosling. So without further ado, let's get into the 6 things that make a movie great. 1. The plot. A robot named Roz comes to after shipwrecking on this island. Her primary function is to find assigned tasks, complete them, and then move on to the next one. But she's having difficulty trying to connect with all these animals, so she learns their language and then starts making connections with them. In her attempt to try to help, she accidentally takes out a goose nest, leaving just one solitary egg. Once that egg hatches, the gosling imprints on Roz and she starts to raise it as her own. In a nutshell, for me, this movie would have been a fantastic short film. Unfortunately though, even though the plot of this movie is decent, it starts to try to do way too much, especially near the end. It started adding more and adding more and adding more, and then it threw in an antagonist 15 minutes to the end of the movie. And I get that this is a kid's movie, I get it, and it serves that role just fine. But in general, the story would have been much better in my opinion if it had ended a lot earlier. Either way, the movie ends well and the story throughout is pretty decent. So for me, plot gets a thumbs up. 2 is family friendliness. The Wild Robot is rated PG. There are a handful of perilous situations, including a few deaths. Some of the dialogue in this movie is actually kind of morbid, but it's hilarious. And there are a few intense moments as well. But once again, Pixar does a great job of keeping things kid appropriate while also making it entertaining for adults. So for me, family friendliness gets a thumbs up. 3 is acting and script. There are a lot of really good actors in this movie, and it was really fun to be able to key in on the voice and see if I could recognize who it was. All the voice actors did an excellent job. I, of course, love hearing Matt Berry do anything, and all the other actors did a great job as well. And the script of this movie was very clever at times as well. Yeah, there are a couple moments that didn't land, and there's a couple cringy moments, especially with Bright Bill, but I did find myself being surprised at how clever and funny and occasionally morbid the script of this movie was. I laughed out loud a few times, and when I can do that in a kid's movie, that makes me happy. I do think the script started to unravel a little bit near the end just because it was a whole bunch of unnecessary movie being made, but for all intents and purposes, I have to give acting and script a thumbs up. 4 is character development. Oh, this is the one that hurts. This hurts. This movie had the framework of having excellent character development between Roz and Bright Bill, and they had it in the bag. The primary antagonist of the film could have been the underlying tension between Bright Bill and Roz, and how Roz had taken out Bright Bill's nest when he was a child, and he doesn't know that. And they use that for a little bit of the film, but then all of a sudden they do a bunch of really rushed character development, and it completely shallows everything out. And it almost felt like they did that so they could rush a couple sequences near the end of the movie, including introducing a random secondary antagonist. And I cannot overstate how terrible of an idea that was. They had it in the bag. Like, this was going to be another kids movie that had really deep character development and did a great job emotionally and everything. After that, it's just a mildly serviceable job. There's some decent development between Fink and Roz, and that's fun to watch. But a lot of it is not as deep as it could have been, and they did it to themselves. So for me, character development gets a 50-50. 5 is visuals and CGI. Obviously, this is an animated movie, so let's just talk about the animation. In the opening scene, the animation felt strange. And I don't know that there was anything different in that first scene. It may have just been my mind getting used to the animation style. But 10 to 15 minutes in, you're used to it, and it looks great. It's colorful, it's easy on the eyes, and it's just unique enough that it makes it stand out on its own. I don't think there was anything visually in this movie that wowed me, but it looked great the whole time. So for me, visuals and CGI get a thumbs up. And 6 is rewatchability. The Wild Robot is an hour and 42 minutes long, and like I mentioned before, this movie would have made an excellent short film, but instead decided to keep on trying to do more and more and more, too much so that it made this movie feel long. If it would have focused more on the relational antagonist between Bright Bill and Roz, and just let that story play out, I think it would have done a lot for this movie. But instead, it rushed its development and decided to throw in some random things near the end to try to add something to the film, and it was just too much. much. But putting that objective view aside, this was a great kids movie. For kids, I think they absolutely would watch this movie again. For me, I have to give rewatchability a 50-50. With all these areas considered, I have to give The Wild Robot a 6 out of 10. This movie tried to do too much, threw in an unnecessary antagonist in 20 minutes till the film was over. It cut its character development off at the knees, had a few cringy moments, and probably would have made a much better short film. But this movie had clever and funny dialogue, some great original characters, great voice acting performances, and some unique animation that was very fun to watch. And at the end of the day, it was not a bad story either. It's not the best kids movie that I've seen this year, and it definitely is not the best Pixar movie ever made, but it is a safe movie for you to bring your kids to, and you'll probably have a decent time watching it as well. So with all that in mind, if you have kids, The Wild Robot is definitely worth checking out in theaters, and if you enjoyed decent animated films, you might want to check it out on your own as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you've seen The Wild Robot, please let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. As always, I appreciate your love and support, and I'll catch you guys and gals in the next one.